Hey everybody, my name is Janet. If you're new here, welcome to my modern homestead, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we are going to do a canning recipe. Now, I've done this with chicken, but we have some pork that we've processed from our hogs, and I wanted to get it out of the freezer, and I want to try canning it this way because when I did it with the chicken, if you have followed along or seen my community post, you saw a dish I cooked with that chicken and those black beans. Oh, y'all, it was so good. If you've not seen that community post, go look for it. You'll see what it turned out. How amazing it turned out, I should say. But anyway, I wanted to know what this pork would taste like with it. I was just going to do the pork plain until I cooked that when I was getting ready to can this pork. And I said, oh, put the brakes on. We're going to do it this way. So the first thing we need to do is drain this pork. But let me show you what I've got ready. I've got all of our spices out, and I've already washed, sorted and washed some black beans, just dried black beans. And then for this recipe, I'm actually going to cut up an onion. So I need to get that cut up, and then we're ready to fill the jars. There's one thing I like to do. I like to go ahead and have all my ingredients laid out. Oh, I just realized I didn't get my measuring spoons, but I need to get those. But let me show you what we're canning on today. Look what I got for Mother's Day, y'all. I'm so excited to try it. I hope it works. The reviews and the people in my canning group says it will, so we'll see. I got the Cadco single burner, and it's supposed to be commercial grade. It should take the weight, so we're going to try it out. But I also got a new cast iron Dutch oven. Yay! I want to get one more that's enameled for certain types of dishes, but I was so excited to get this one because if you've seen some of my other videos, you may have seen my other cast iron Dutch oven, and it's way too big and too heavy for my oven. It's actually made to go outside on a campfire, so I think this one's going to work much better. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get busy.
To start, just chop up a large onion and drop a piece of onion into each jar.
And now let's fill each jar 3/4 of the way full with the cubed pork. Maybe. Okay, now let's add 1/4 cup of black beans to each jar. 2 jars that are empty. So I've got the chicken. It's actually 2 chicken breasts that we processed from our own chickens. So I'm going to chop them up and put those in the other 2 jars. Grabbed a paring knife, but it'll be all right. I'm just going to cube it. The size doesn't matter, just whatever's good for you, it will be just fine. And again, about 3/4 of the way full. And 1/4 of a cup of black beans. And repeat with the other jar. Okay, now that the jars are filled, let's talk about what we're going to season with. In the jars where I have the pork, we're going to use 1½ teaspoon of the beef broth base and seasoning. For the chicken, we're going to use the chicken seasoning. Then we're going to use a pinch of pepper, 1 pinch of cayenne, 1/4 of a teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 of a teaspoon of cumin, 1 pinch of ginger, 1/8 of a teaspoon of paprika, 2 pinches of chili powder, and 1 pinch of tahini. All right, and for the chicken, we're going to do it just like we did before. Like I said, with the broth base, we're going to use the chicken broth base, and then we're going to use 1/2 of a teaspoon of salt, 1/2 of a teaspoon of cumin, 1/8 of a teaspoon of garlic powder, about 2 pinches of chili powder, and a pinch of tahini, or tahine, however you say it. So let's get busy filling these jars with the seasonings. Let's fill each jar to 1 inch headspace. Whoa! Now we need to debubble. And this is why you debubble. See how far down the liquid came once we removed the bubbles? You don't want that airspace in your jar in the canner. So let's fill it back up to 1 inch headspace. Okay. Now we need to wipe the rim of the jars. I have my little bowl of vinegar. I'm going to dip the paper towel down into it and wipe really well around the rim of the jar. Make sure you do it well and get off anything that could be there. Some of these I can actually see the stuff on the jar. and use a different part of your napkin or your rag with each white or each different jar so that you're not transferring from one jar to the next. That would totally defeat your purpose. You would just be putting it from one jar onto the next one. I'm going to hold off on that one. That one's the yucky one where I spilled the water out. Ready? Let's get this messy one. See, I could feel it on there. Now we're not going to waste the vinegar in this bowl. I'm actually going to pour it into the canner. Because our water here is harder than where it was where we used to live. So let's get a lid and a ring and seal these up. Okay. Lid's on. Okay, now when I seal my jars up, I like to have either a towel or a pot holder up under the jar. That way when I'm tightening this with just my fingers, when the jar starts turning, that is finger tight. I don't need to go any further. Okay, now I have some leftover black beans. So I'm going to put a half a cup of black beans into each jar, and then I'm going to season them just like I did for the chicken, except for the tahini. I'm going to leave that out. I'm not going to use the chicken broth base either. I'm going to use the beef broth base. And because this is going to call for more water in each jar, I'm actually going to use, on purpose, a full 2 teaspoons of the broth base. I went ahead and put in the cumin, but I'm also going to use a full 1/4 teaspoon of the garlic powder. Now I have done seasoned black beans on this channel before, so you can always look back at that to see how I did them that time. I hardly ever do them the same way every single time. I'll put a little bit of the chili powder in these, and then we're going to call these done. Water to a 1-inch headspace. Just a little bit more and this jar is done. debubble. Wipe the rim. And for this you can use water. You don't have to use the vinegar, but since I already had the vinegar out, that's what I used. And we're going to seal the jars the same exact way. Okay, let's load in the jars. I'm putting all the pork jars on the bottom. This is the All-American 930. And it will hold a double stack of quarts and pints. And you start with 3 inches of water in the bottom. Now, because this is room temperature, I started with the 3 inches of just regular tap water. It's not warm at all. That way, everything can come up to pressure all at one time. Okay? Now, when you start with the 3 inches of water, water will rise. You don't wait until you have the jars in there. That's in the instruction book. So, what I'm going to do now is get the next tray, put it over the top, and then put in the rest of the jars. These are the chicken and just the regular black beans, plain black beans. Let's put on our lid. I have the little notch here and an arrow here on the lid. You need to line those up. Make sure that the space all the way around is as even as you can get it. And then lightly tighten down on opposite sides. Don't totally lock it down, just in case you need to make any adjustments. This just about doesn't fit on my counter. This is the only place in my kitchen I can use it. Okay, now that everything's lightly tightened down, go around and make sure your space is good, and then tighten everything down. All right, and then we're going to turn on the unit. This is the first time I've ever done this. I'm nervous. All right. Okay, on. And then I'm going to start on a medium high just to bring it up to vent. And once this is up to temperature, steam will start coming out of the vent pipe. And then we'll do that for 10 minutes before we put the weight on. I had to turn it on high, but we finally have steam coming out of the vent. So we're going to let it go for 10 minutes and then we'll put on the weight. Okay, we're going to put the weight on. And then when this comes up to 11 pounds of pressure, we will start the timer for 75 minutes. Okay, now we'll set the timer for 75 minutes. Alrighty, now all we do is turn this off and let this come down to 0 pressure. It will be at 0 pressure when that needle is resting on that little white prong there. Okay, we are at 0 pounds of pressure. We're going to give it just a few more minutes and then we'll take the weight off. Okay, let's take the weight off. We're going to give it about 10 more minutes before we unlock it. Okay, we have reached, it's been 10 minutes. So I have propped the lid open and I will leave it here for at least 10 minutes. I'm about to cook, so it's probably going to be longer than that. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, let's get the jars out of the canner. There are our pints of chicken and pork and seasoned black beans. So it got really dark. I had to come out here to do the ending. You know, I love it when you come and spend a few minutes with me. I hope you enjoyed the video. And until we meet again, may you be blessed. Love you guys.